That's all lemon, baby. I've wanted to be a filmmaker since I was in high school. I'd run around with my friends, making movies. It was awesome.
All right, we're rolling.
Before that, when I was a kid, I drew characters all the time. I loved storytelling, I loved thinking about characters, and the coolest thing to draw was superheroes, so I drew tons of those. And for years, I've had these characters in my head. When I grew up and decided to get serious about life, I thought that it might be a bad idea to try pursuing film, but I tried it anyway. I made 2 hour-long movies in my hometown.
Not bad. They knock us out.
You fell asleep?
Since I moved to Utah, I've only been able to make a few shorts. I lived in Provo, Utah, and it was pretty competitive space, and you had a lot of you had a lot of college students, and there was a lot of competing space for filmmaking, which is good. But I didn't have an in, and I wasn't going to go to college, so I kind of thought that maybe it was a bad idea again. But in my heart, I have always been drawn to filmmaking. I've always been drawn to storytelling. You can see it from when I was a kid. It was in me even then. So recently my wife and I moved to St. George, Utah. And that was my missing ingredient. I've been working on this story. I used to just call it Avocrinus and Max because those were the names of the main characters. And I've written dozens of unfinished stories over the years. I have drawn dozens of drawings that don't go to any written story. And I have held these characters very dear to my heart ever since I was a kid. And recently, as I've gotten older, I have abandoned the superhero aspect of these characters. It's just not hip anymore. It's not as cool as it was in 2012. Later last year, I started writing these characters again, and I thought, well, what would work? How would I make these characters work in a story about people doing something? And I've always loved action adventure like Indiana Jones, or basically anybody trying to copy Indiana Jones. I've really enjoyed detective stories. I love Sherlock Holmes and the Agatha Christie stories, and I grew up on Psych, and that has affected me greatly because I watched it in my formative years. And when we moved to St. George, I had written a TV show pilot. My wife and I had gotten masterclass, and I had watched the Duffer Brothers masterclass on writing a hit TV show. And say what you will about Stranger Things, I'm probably saying it as well, but when it started, it was great. And I have never been, I always love writing, but I've never been a very organized writer. They talk about drafting. They do various drafts, and so I just followed their drafting procedure. And I just nailed it. I really liked the way that this process works because I had written the only full feature-length screenplay I've written where I didn't write it as we were shooting it was when I was adapting this old public domain novel that I really like, and it was so easy to write because all the material is there, and I could make stuff up with the characters that were on the page, and like where it needed to fit better, I could make changes. Anyway, point is, I tried this drafting thing where I do one draft and then another and then another, and they grow each time, and you start way zoomed out and then get more specific as you go. It was like magic. Like it was really good. It was just like that. It was like writing from an original. It was, what's the word? Adapting. It was like adapting another material into a screenplay when I have the outline. And so it was magic. Like it worked for me. And so I wrote the pilot for Avacrinus and Max. And now I'm calling it Half-Life Eternity. And I've written the pilot, I've written episode 2, I'm on to episode 3, and I have mapped out 24 episodes for season 1. Which, it feels crazy. Nobody does independent TV, nobody makes those sorts of shows anymore where the season is long. All TV now is short, and it is expensive, and you have to wait 3 to 5 years before the next season comes out. The production value is beautiful. They look like movies, but I miss cheap, fast, long season, family-friendly TV. Like, that was good stuff. And so with that, I decided I would make my own. And does it make me stupid thinking that I can do this? Maybe. But I've taken a lot of inspiration from Robert Rodriguez and Rebel Without a Crew, as a lot of first-time and up-and-coming filmmakers have. And he was just doing something. He made his first feature for $7,000, and it made, I think, $2 million. So, you know. But maybe he just got lucky. And I'm willing to take that chance. You know, maybe I'll get lucky, who knows? But the feeling I have, the North Star inside of me is to just keep going. It's to just keep making what I've always made, which is stories about characters I love. And I'm really passionate about this project. I put up a casting call, sort of against my better judgment and a little unexpectedly. I woke up one morning and I thought, why don't I just draft a casting call to see what it looks like? Because once I had the screenplay, I was thinking, I'll wait till I have money. I'll wait till this is good. Well, it is good. But I was waiting. I was waiting till the perfect moment. And I got up one morning and I said, what if I just draft a casting call and see what it looks like? And so I drafted it. I compared it to real casting calls that real people put out, real filmmakers. And so I just copied that and put the information on it and said, we're shooting in September. It is currently April. And it looked great. I was like, well, it looked great. Pat myself on the back. It looked good. It looked professional is what it looked like. And so, kind of on a whim, I decided to just post it to a bunch of Facebook pages because I can take virtual auditions for these characters. And I mentioned that it's pay on the back end. Like, I can't pay anybody up front, but if the project makes money, then I can pay everybody, and that's what I want to do. And so I put it out there. And within the first 2 days, I think I had 30 submissions, which blew me away. It's just like sugar and ginger beer and lemon and a little bit of mint. Anyway, So I put out this casting call and got a lot of submissions back, and then it started to get real, and I started to freak out. And to calm my anxieties, I started building a website. It's not finished yet, but I'm working on it. I got a logo done on Fiverr and put up some Facebook and Instagram pages, and I'm just making lists of to-dos. I'm just working on things to do, and I have some ideas of what I might be able to do in order to raise some money for this film. But that is for another time. In order to make it all feel more legit, I came up with a production company name. I just thought, well, we're in St. George now, so why don't we call it And the Dragon? Because St. George and the Dragon. So that's mine and my wife's production company name. And so far so good. Nothing has gone catastrophically wrong. Things are lining up and they're looking up, and I'm feeling good. I will continue to make videos and keep that updated, but for now, this is the introduction to And the Dragon and my first project, Half-Life Eternity. I really think that this is something, which is good, because most of the time when I make a film, I have just said, oh, well, it's whatever. This is just practice. This is rehearsal for when I make better films. But this time I really believe in what I'm doing. I really believe in what I'm making, and it scares me. It scares me to be working on something that is so important to me. But I think that this will work out. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Cheers. Wow, it lasted on this almost dead battery.